Hey everyone, this is Taehyung. Before I begin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever met someone only once, but somehow their presence keeps echoing inside your heart long after they're gone? Someone who doesn't even know how deeply they've been living in your thoughts? I've met thousands of faces under stage lights, through airport crowds, in quiet cafes hidden behind glass windows. But there's one face blurry now that still visits me in moments when the world feels silent. Sometimes I wonder if she was real or if she was just a reflection of the kind of love I've always searched for yet could never find. I don't talk about this much, not because it's a secret, but because it's something sacred. The kind of story that belongs not to the headlines but to the spaces between heartbeats. You see, when you live in a world where everything you do becomes someone else's conversation, love turns into something delicate like a butterfly resting on your shoulder. The moment you try to hold it too tightly, it's gone. When I was younger, I used to believe love would appear suddenly. Like a movie scene, the music swells, time slows down, and two souls recognize each other instantly. But real life doesn't move in slow motion. It moves in silence, in timing, in choices. Love, I've learned, isn't about finding someone. It's about recognizing them even when the world tries to distract you from what your heart is whispering. I used to think I was ready for love, but I wasn't, because love doesn't knock on your door until you've built a home inside yourself. I didn't have that home yet. I had rooms filled with music, with laughter, with dreams, but not with peace. I could make millions smile, but I couldn't sit alone without feeling the weight of the silence. When you're known by millions, you begin to forget what it's like to be known by one, truly known. The kind of knowing that doesn't need words or explanations. That's what I long for. But fame is a strange thing. It gives you everything you thought you wanted, only to make you realize what you've been missing all along. There was a moment years ago when I thought I found her. She wasn't famous. She wasn't from the same world as mine. She smiled differently, not because she was trying to, but because her heart naturally moved that way. She talked to me as if I wasn't Taehyung from BTS, but just a man trying to understand life. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. But life doesn't always give you the luxury of holding on. She belonged to her own story, and I was already written into mine. We existed like two lines that met for a heartbeat, then continued in opposite directions. I told myself I'd forget her, but I didn't. I couldn't, because she wasn't just someone I met. She was a mirror of who I was still becoming. Sometimes I wonder, was she meant to stay, or was she sent only to remind me of what love could be? There's a quote I once read that said, "Some souls meet not to be together, but to awaken each other." Maybe that was us. Maybe that's why her memory feels like both a gift and a wound. I don't search for her face anymore, but I still search for that feeling, that peace, that warmth that made the noise fade away. I think that's what love really is, not the fireworks, but the quiet after the storm. The kind of calm that doesn't demand anything, doesn't perform, doesn't ask you to change. It just says, "You're enough." Over the years, I've learned that love will come when you've learned to rest in your own heart. Until then, the universe keeps sending you people who teach you sometimes softly, sometimes painfully, what love is not. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Every almost love, every goodbye, every what if becomes part of the lesson that leads you closer to the one that stays. If you ask me now whether I believe I'll ever find her, I don't know. But maybe she's not someone I need to find. Maybe she's someone who will find me when I've learned to be still enough for her to recognize me too. So for now, I keep walking not in search of her, but in search of myself. Because somewhere deep down, I believe that when I finally become the man I was meant to be, that's when she'll appear. Not as a dream I'm chasing, but as a reality I'm ready for. This isn't a story about sadness. It's a story about becoming. And if you've ever felt like love keeps passing you by, maybe it's not because love forgot you. Maybe it's because love is waiting for you to meet it halfway when you're finally ready to stay. And that's where my story begins. Not with her name, but with the silence she left behind. A silence that taught me how to listen to my own heart again. There is something about silence that terrifies people. We fill it with music, with words, with laughter, anything to keep us from hearing what's hidden underneath. But I've learned that silence is where truth lives. It's in the quiet that your heart begins to speak, and sometimes what it says isn't what you expected. After she left, or maybe after I let her go, I don't even know which came first. I began to live differently. Not luder, not bousier, just quieter. I stopped chasing things that glittered and started listening to what glowed. It wasn't easy. When you've been living in the spotlight for so long, it's hard to remember how to stand in the dark without fear. But darkness isn't the enemy. It's the place where seeds grow, where pain turns into understanding, where endings become beginnings. For a long time, I thought love meant having someone to share your happiness with. But love also means having someone who can sit with you in your silence. No need for explanations, no need for perfection. Someone who doesn't try to fix you, but just chooses to stay. That's the kind of love I realized I've been searching for all along. Not the kind that shines, but the kind that stays, even when the lights go out. People often ask me, what does your ideal type look like? And every time I smile a little because how do you describe a soul? It's not about looks, not even about personality, it's about energy. It's the feeling that your worlds align, even if for a brief second. It's the way she listens when you speak, as if your words are not noise but melody. It's the way she makes you feel at home even when you're far away. That's what I look for. That's what I still haven't found. There are days when I tell myself I've moved on, that I've outgrown that part of me that used to search endlessly. But then I'll hear a certain song or smell rain on cold pavement, and suddenly she's there again, not as a person, but as a feeling. And I realized that some people never truly leave you. They live quietly inside your art, in your voice, in your choices. They become part of your story, even if they never appear in the credits. I've written songs that sound like love stories, but sometimes they're really just letters I never sent. Every lyric, every melody is a conversation with her spirit. I don't even know if she would recognize herself in those notes, but I hope she would feel something familiar. A warmth, a sincerity, a quiet ache that says, you were once the reason behind this sound. I remember once during a late night drive, I asked myself, what if she comes back? would I still be the same person she met? And the answer was no. I've changed not because of her absence, but because her absence made me grow. Sometimes losing someone doesn't break you, it awakens you. It teaches you to see love in places you never looked before. Love isn't about holding on tightly, it's about holding space. It's about allowing someone to be free and trusting that if it's meant to be, your paths will find each other again. Maybe that's why I never chased her. Because deep down, I believe that love shouldn't have to run, it should arrive. People think love stories are about two people finding each other. But sometimes, the most beautiful stories are about one person finding themselves after losing someone. That's what my life has become, a long walk home to myself. And every lesson, every scar, every quiet night alone, it's leading me somewhere. Sometimes I stand by the window of my studio, guitar in hand, looking out at the city lights. I imagine her somewhere out there, maybe looking up at the same sky, wondering if I still remember. And I do. Not in a way that hurts anymore, but in a way that reminds me that I once loved deeply enough to change. That's a blessing, even if the story didn't end the way I thought it would. You see, love doesn't always arrive wrapped in forever. Sometimes it comes to teach you, to soften you, to prepare you. And if you're lucky, it leaves you better than it found you. That's what she did for me. She left me with silence, and in that silence, I found my voice again. I think the reason I haven't found the one yet is because I'm still becoming the person who deserves her. The woman I'm meant to meet one day, if the universe is kind, deserves a man who's done searching and started being. Because love doesn't come to complete you, it comes to reflect you. And when I finally meet her, I don't want her to meet the version of me that's still chasing ghosts. I want her to meet the version that's learned to stand still, to breathe, to love without needing to own. That's when I'll know I'm ready. Until then, I keep walking. Not forward, not backward, just inward. Because every step toward peace is a step closer to her, wherever she is. Maybe she's listening now. Maybe she's forgotten me. But that doesn't matter, because love in its truest form never needs to be returned to be real. It simply is. Sometimes I wonder if love has a way of testing our patience, like the universe saying, "Not yet, you're not ready." And I used to fight that. I used to think, why not me? Why not now? But as the years pass, I'm beginning to see the beauty in the wait. Because waiting isn't empty, it's preparation. It's where you learn who you are when no one's watching. It's where you learn that love isn't something to find, it's something to create within yourself first. There was a time when I thought being loved was the same as being chosen. But it's not. Being chosen can come from admiration, from curiosity, from desire. Being loved, though, that comes from being understood. And that's a much rarer thing. When people look at me, they see what's on stage. The smiles, the calm, the presence. But behind all that, there's still a boy who feels everything too deeply, who still wonders if he's enough when the lights go out. And maybe that's what I need her to see someday. Not the artist, not the image, but the human, the man who wakes up some mornings questioning himself. The man who sometimes sits quietly for hours because his heart is too heavy for words. The man who doesn't always have it together but still tries to show up, to be better, to love honestly. That's me, and that's the version I want her to meet. I think that's why I've stopped chasing, because the woman I'm meant to meet, she won't be found through effort or control. She'll appear when I've learned to stop performing love and start living it. She won't arrive because of timing or luck, but because we'll both have grown into the kind of people who can recognize real love when it stands before us. I often imagine her life, not in a fantasy way, not like a movie scene, but in the ordinary moments. I picture her laughing with friends over coffee, maybe tired from a long day but still smiling. I picture her pausing to help a stranger or losing herself in a song no one else can hear. I picture her existing fully, not waiting for anyone to complete her. And that's what draws me to her, even if I haven't met her yet. Because real love doesn't come from two people needing each other. It comes from two people who have already learned how to stand alone, choosing to stand together anyway. When I was younger, I thought love was a grand performance full of gestures, surprises, and perfection. But now, I think love is in the quiet things. In the way someone listens to your breathing when you're falling asleep, in the way they remember how you take your tea, or how they sit beside you when you don't have words. That's the kind of love I want, the kind that doesn't demand attention but gives peace. There's something sacred about peace. When you've lived surrounded by noise, you begin to treasure stillness. And whoever she is, I want her to feel that with me. Not excitement, not drama, but peace. Because when love feels like home, you stop needing the world's approval. People often ask me if I'm afraid of being alone. And honestly, I used to be. I used to think loneliness was a punishment. But now I see it as a teacher. It's in solitude that you learn how to be your own companion, how to hold your own heart without waiting for someone else to do it for you. That lesson changed me. It softened me. It made me realize that love isn't about feeling emptiness, it's about sharing wholeness. When I do meet her, I don't want to hand her a broken heart and ask her to fix it. I want to offer her a whole one that's been mended through growth, patience, and grace. Because I don't want to need her to make me complete. I want to choose her freely every day. And I hope she chooses me the same way, not because I'm Taehyung, not because of fame or fantasy, but because she sees something real in me. Something quiet, steady, human. I hope she sees the man behind the music and decides that's someone I want to walk beside. Maybe we'll meet in a place that doesn't make sense, a random day, an ordinary setting, no cameras, no pressure. Maybe it'll start as a simple conversation, nothing magical, nothing cinematic. But something in that moment will feel right. Like we've known each other before, not in this life, but in the spaces between. And when that happens, I won't rush. I won't try to make it perfect. I'll just breathe it in because I've learned that the best things in life unfold naturally like a sunrise. You don't chase it, you just wait and let it happen. I used to think love was a destination. Now I know it's a journey. And every heartbreak, every lonely night, every unanswered question, it's all part of that journey leading me to her. Until then, I'll keep writing. I'll keep singing. Because through music, I can speak to her even if she doesn't know it yet. Maybe she's listening without realizing that the song was meant for her. Maybe one day she'll hear a lyric and think, That sounds like something I've always felt but never said. And when she does, that's when I'll know she's the one I kept searching for, yet could never find until she found me. There are nights when I sit alone, surrounded by silence, and I think about how strange destiny can be, how it weaves people into and out of our lives in ways we never fully understand. How sometimes the people meant for us arrive not when we want them, but when we're finally ready to meet them. I've always believed in timing, not as a coincidence, but as something sacred, because love, I think, isn't just about meeting someone, it's about being in the right place within yourself when that meeting happens. And for a long time, I wasn't there yet. I used to imagine that when love came, it would feel like a spark, something loud and obvious. But now, I think it will feel more like recognition, quiet, steady, familiar. Like the world doesn't need to shift dramatically, it just needs to click into place. Maybe she's already out there, living her days without any idea that somewhere in this world I'm thinking of her. Maybe she's laughing right now, not knowing that her laughter would someday be the sound I'd want to hear every morning. Maybe she's healing from her own heartbreak, preparing herself for something she can't yet see. And maybe that's the same thing I'm doing too. Because before two people can meet each other fully, they have to meet themselves first. They have to walk through their own darkness, face their own mirrors, and learn to love their own reflection even when it's messy, even when it's imperfect. For me, fame has been both a blessing and a wall. It gave me purpose, but it also made it hard to know who was reaching for me because of me and who was reaching for the version of me they'd seen on screen. That kind of confusion can make you guarded. It can make you question whether real connection is even possible. But I've learned something important. Love doesn't require a perfect environment. It just requires two people brave enough to show up as they are. That's what I want. Not someone who loves the idea of Taehyung, but someone who loves the quiet version, the unfiltered one. The man who forgets lyrics sometimes. The man who gets lost in thoughts while looking out of a car window. The man who just wants to sit in peace, maybe holding someone's hand without saying a word. Because that's what real love is to me, quiet understanding. No performance, no expectations, just presence. Sometimes I think about how strange it will feel to share that part of my life with someone, to let someone in completely. I've lived for so long behind the walls of image, of responsibility, of public expectation. Letting someone see beyond that feels both terrifying and liberating. But if she's the one, she'll understand. She'll know that behind the calm exterior is a heart that still trembles when it feels deeply. That behind every composed expression is someone who still gets scared, still hopes, still believes. I think love, real love, makes you braver. Not because it removes fear, but because it gives you a reason to face it. There's a quiet kind of courage in choosing love when you've been hurt before. There's strength in opening your heart again after you've spent years protecting it. And that's the courage I hope to find when she walks into my life. She won't need to fix me. She won't need to complete me. She'll just need to see me and let me see her. And together we'll build something that doesn't need to impress the world but simply feels right to us. Sometimes I close my eyes and picture what that might look like. A simple morning, Soft sunlight coming through the curtains. Music playing quietly somewhere in the background. No cameras, no pressure, just peace. I imagine cooking breakfast together. Maybe she burns the toast and we laugh about it. Or maybe I'm the one who ruins it and she teases me for the rest of the day. Those small, imperfect moments, that's what I crave most because that's where love lives. Not in perfection, but in the comfort of being seen and accepted completely. Maybe that's what I've been chasing all along. Not fame, not perfection, but connection. The kind that stays, even when everything else fades. And maybe that's why I haven't found her yet. Because I'm still learning how to be the man who can meet her fully. Every performance, every late night thought, every time I've looked at the stars and wondered if she's looking at the same sky, it all reminds me that the journey isn't just about finding her. It's about becoming ready for her because love at its purest doesn't arrive when you want it to. It arrives when you've learned enough to receive it. And until that day, I'll keep growing. I'll keep creating. I'll keep becoming the version of myself that love can recognize. Because when that moment finally comes, when I finally meet the woman I've kept searching for but could never find, I want her to look at me and see not just a man who's been waiting, but a man who's been preparing. There's something about love that both humbles and teaches you. It doesn't care who you are, what stage you stand on, or how much the world praises you. It strips away every layer until you're left with the simplest truth that no matter what you've achieved, at the end of the day, you're still just human, still longing to be understood. And that's what I've come to realize about myself. For all the lights, for all the noise, for all the moments where the crowd's energy feels like a wave carrying me higher when it fades, I'm left in silence. And in that silence, I'm reminded that the most important parts of life aren't the ones that get recorded or remembered by millions. They're the ones that happen quietly between two hearts that choose each other. I used to think love would come as a reward for hard work. That maybe after giving my all to music, to art, to dreams, love would naturally follow. But it doesn't work that way. Love isn't something you earn. It's something you receive when you're open enough to let it in. And being open, that's been the hardest part for me. Fame can make you careful. It can make you build walls, not out of pride, but out of protection. You start guarding your heart, not because you don't want love, but because you fear it will get lost in translation, that someone might love the idea of you, not the truth of you. There are moments I look in the mirror and wonder, would she still love me if she saw me without the music, without the stage, without the things that make me Taehyung to the world? Would she still see something worth loving in the man behind it? All the quiet, awkward, sometimes overly introspective soul who still gets nervous before a show, who still second guesses his words? I think about that a lot. Because that's the kind of love I want, one that doesn't depend on the spotlight. I want to wake up beside someone who doesn't see a performer but a person. Someone who isn't impressed by success but inspired by sincerity. Someone who doesn't measure love in grand gestures but in consistency. The truth is, I've spent so much time living for others, for fans, for art, for the expectations that come with being part of something larger than myself. And I don't regret that. It's beautiful. It's meaningful. But sometimes it makes me forget how to live for me. Love, to me, feels like a chance to remember that Again, to live not for the applause, but for the quiet moments that never need validation. I imagine what it would be like to come home after a long day, tired from rehearsals or recording, and not have to say a single word. Just being met by someone's presence, calm, grounding, real. A hand on my shoulder, a simple, you did well today. That's it. That's enough. Because love doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it just needs to be there. I think that's the beauty of maturity, realizing that the grandest forms of love are often the gentlest. They don't demand attention, they bring peace. They don't ignite chaos, they build safety. And that's the kind of love I want to give too. For a long time, I thought my purpose was to inspire through performance, to create beauty on stage, in sound, in art, but now I see that love too is a kind of art. It's the art of patience, the art of forgiveness, the art of choosing the same person again and again, even when life feels uncertain. When I think about marriage, I don't picture a perfect story. I picture two people building something real, something that might not always look beautiful from the outside, but feels beautiful from the inside. A home filled not with things, but with laughter. Not with perfection, but with understanding. I imagine mornings when we don't have much to say, but it still feels like enough. Evenings when we argue, but we don't walk away. We stay, we talk, we heal. I imagine building a life that's not about showing the world we made it, but about knowing quietly that we did. Because love, in its truest form, doesn't seek attention, it seeks truth. And I want that truth more than I want perfection. There's something incredibly vulnerable about admitting that, because it means letting go of control, letting life happen the way it's meant to. It means trusting that the woman meant for me will find her way into my story, not because I chased her, but because we were both walking toward the same truth. Sometimes I wonder what she'll think when she finally meets me. Will she see the boy who still hides his feelings behind a smile? Will she sense the quiet loneliness I've learned to carry gracefully? Will she know how many songs were written with her in mind long before I even knew her name? Maybe she will. Maybe she'll just look at me and know without words that we've been finding our way toward each other for a long time. And when that happens, I want to be ready, not as an idol, not as a symbol, but as a man, one who's learned to love without fear, to speak without pretending, to give without expecting. Because love that's real isn't about possession, it's about recognition. It's about seeing someone's soul and saying, I know you, I see you, and I choose you. That's the dream that keeps me grounded, even when the world feels too big. That's the hope that makes every lonely night worth it. And I know one day it'll all make sense. All the waiting, all the wondering, all the times I asked, why not yet? It'll make sense when she's standing there, not as a fantasy, not as a symbol, but as the answer I didn't know I was waiting for. Until then, I'll keep learning how to love myself, how to be patient, and how to live honestly. Because the woman I've kept searching for, she deserves to meet the best version of me. And I owe her that. Fame is a strange thing. It gives you everything people dream of: success, admiration, security, and yet somehow it quietly takes away the things that truly matter. It replaces simplicity with schedules and connection with distance. You start living behind glass, visible but unreachable. Sometimes I wonder if the woman I've been searching for ever tried to reach me through that glass. Maybe she saw me not as V from BTS, but as Taehyung, the boy from Daegu who used to run barefoot in fields, laughing without a care. Maybe she saw that side of me and thought, he looks lonely. Because truthfully, I've been lonely in ways fame can't fix. I've smiled for cameras, performed for oceans of people, and still gone home to silence. I've laughed on stage, then stared at the ceiling in the dark, wondering if anyone truly sees the real me, the me behind the artistry, behind the crafted perfection. There's a quiet fear that lives inside me, the fear of being loved for the wrong reasons. What if she falls for the version of me she sees online, not the one who gets tired, who sometimes shuts down, who overthinks every word? What if she loves V but not Taehyung? That thought terrifies me more than anything. I think that's why I've been so protective of my heart, because love, for me, can't survive in superficiality. It needs honesty, the kind that can look at me when I'm at my lowest and still stay. There was a time early in my career when I thought I had to be perfect for love to find me. I tried to be everything people wanted me to be: kind, calm, collected, unshaken. But love isn't built on perfection. It's built on vulnerability, and I wasn't ready to show that. Not yet. Now, I realize the right person won't be scared of my flaws. She'll understand them. Maybe she'll even love me because of them, because they make me real. I imagine meeting her somewhere simple. Maybe a cafe where nobody recognizes me. Maybe at a park on a quiet afternoon when the wind carries the scent of autumn leaves. She won't rush to take a photo or ask a question. She'll just look at me like she already knows me. Maybe she'll say something ordinary, something like, "You look tired," and I'll smile, because no one ever says that. No one ever sees that side of me. And in that small, ordinary moment, I'll realize she's different. I think about that moment more often than I'd like to admit. It's not about romance in the traditional sense. It's about connection, the kind that makes you feel understood without having to explain yourself. When I see couples walking hand in hand, I don't feel envy, I feel hope. Because love, like that real grounding love, still exists. It's rare, but it's real. And maybe she's out there living her own story right now, chasing her dreams, healing from her own heartbreaks, wondering if there's someone out there who would understand her heart the way she's always wanted. Maybe we're both preparing for each other without realizing it. Maybe every heartbreak I've been through wasn't a punishment, but a preparation, a way of teaching me what not to take for granted when she finally arrives. People often ask me if I believe in destiny. I do, but not in the way movies or novels portray it. I don't believe in fate as something that magically brings two people together. I believe in it as something that shapes you so that when you finally meet the right person, you're ready to love them the way they deserve. Because love is timing. You can meet the right person at the wrong time and it will still break your heart. But when the timing is right, when both souls have grown enough to meet halfway, that's when everything aligns. Sometimes I think that's why I haven't found her yet. Maybe life still has lessons to teach me, lessons about patience, about surrender, about learning to give love without fear. It's strange. People often assume I've experienced everything because of my career, but the truth is, there are still so many simple human moments I crave. A quiet walk at night without bodyguards, a spontaneous trip without being recognized, a meal where I can laugh freely, not as V, but just as me. Those are the things that keep me human. And those are the things I want to share with her. I've stopped chasing love. I've started becoming the kind of person who can nurture it. Because love isn't found by searching harder, it's found when you finally become someone who's ready to receive it. When that time comes, I want to be someone she can lean on, not someone she has to protect from the world. I want to hold her hand without fear, walk beside her without hesitation, love her without conditions. I want our love to be something private, sacred, something we protect, not something we perform. Because real love doesn't need validation from anyone but the two people living it. And when I close my eyes, I can almost see it, her smile, soft and warm, the kind that feels like home. I can hear her laughter, the way it echoes through quiet rooms. I can feel the peace of her presence grounding me when the world feels too loud. That's the woman I've been searching for. Not a fantasy, not a dream, but a soul who understands mine, who brings me back to myself. And when we finally meet, I won't need to ask if it's her. I'll just know, because love, when it's real, doesn't need to be explained. It's felt, it's recognized, it's remembered like a melody you've carried all your life, waiting for the right moment to be sung aloud. And maybe that moment is closer than I think. There's a moment in every artist's life when the noise fades, when the stage lights dim, the crowd goes home, and all that's left is the sound of your own heartbeat echoing in the dark. That's when you meet yourself again. No masks, no image, no expectations. Just you. For a long time, I avoided that silence. I filled it with melodies, rehearsals, laughter, even distractions. Anything that could keep me from facing what was really inside, the loneliness, the uncertainty, the constant question of, am I enough? But recently, I've learned that silence isn't the enemy, it's a mirror. And when I finally stopped running, I started to see things clearly, not just about love, but about life, about who I am beyond the version the world sees. The truth is, every heartbreak, every goodbye, every quiet night I've spent wondering about her has been teaching me something. It's been preparing me for peace, not the kind that comes from getting what you want, but the kind that comes from understanding why you had to wait. I used to see love as something missing, a piece of the puzzle that would finally make me whole. But now, I see that love doesn't complete you. It expands you. It takes what's already there, your joy, your pain, your flaws, and turns it into something deeper, something meaningful. And maybe that's why I haven't met her yet, because I needed to learn how to love myself first. Not the version that performs for others, but the one that exists when no one's watching. I've learned that self love isn't always soft. Sometimes it's lonely, sometimes it's uncomfortable. It's looking at your reflection and saying, you still deserve love, even when you're not perfect, even when you're still healing. I think that's what love really is. Two people who've learned to love themselves enough not to lose each other in the process. When I look back at my journey, the music, the fame, the endless travel, I see a boy who was always searching for meaning, for identity, for love. And now I finally understand that the search was never about finding someone else. It was about finding me. Music has been my greatest companion in that process. Every lyric, every melody has carried a piece of my truth. Things I couldn't say out loud, I sang instead. There's something sacred about that. When I create, I don't just express emotions, I release them, and through that release, I heal. Sometimes I imagine her listening to one of my songs somewhere. Maybe she doesn't even know it's about her. Maybe she's driving or walking home after a long day, and one line suddenly makes her heart stop for a moment. Maybe she feels seen the way I felt seen when I first started writing. That's how I like to think we're connected, not by chance, but by resonance. Two souls vibrating at the same frequency, even from different worlds. There's beauty in not knowing when she'll appear. It keeps the story alive. It keeps me hopeful, because hope, I've realized, is a quiet kind of strength. It's choosing to believe even when you can't see what's ahead. And that's what I do every day, I believe. I believe that the universe has its own timing, that love doesn't rush, that what's meant for me will always find me, even if it takes longer than I imagined. I used to think waiting was passive, something you did when life stood still. But now I see that waiting is active. It's a process of becoming. It's learning patience, resilience, faith. It's preparing your heart for the moment everything aligns. And when it does, I don't want to just find her, I want to be ready for her. Because real love doesn't start when you meet someone. It starts when you've learned to stand on your own. It's when you can look at someone and say, I don't need you to complete me. I just want to share this life with you. That to me is the most beautiful form of love partnership, not possession. Maybe one day, when I finally meet her, it won't be in a dramatic way. There won't be fireworks or destiny written in the sky. Maybe it'll just be a quiet encounter, a shared smile, a simple hello that somehow feels like a homecoming. And maybe I'll realize that she's been there all along in the music I wrote, in the dreams I chased, in the love I gave to the world. Maybe she was never lost. Maybe she was just waiting for me to be ready to recognize her. That thought gives me peace, because love in its purest form doesn't come to rescue you. It comes to remind you that you were never broken in the first place. I've stopped searching with desperation. Now, I'm just walking slowly, purposefully, trusting that when it's time, our paths will cross naturally without effort. Until then, I'll keep creating. I'll keep singing, dreaming, and learning how to love the life I've been given. Because the woman I've been searching for, she deserves to meet a man who's whole, not half, a man who's already found peace within himself. And when that happens, I know our story won't just be about finding love. It'll be about becoming love. There are nights when I sit by the window watching the city lights fade into the distance. The world feels quiet, almost still, and in that silence, my thoughts drift toward her, the woman I've been searching for, yet could never find. Not in faces, not in places, not even in the countless encounters I've had over the years. She remains a mystery, a whisper that my heart somehow recognizes even when my eyes have never seen her. Sometimes, I wonder if she feels it too, that invisible pull between two souls who haven't met but are somehow intertwined by something greater than coincidence. Maybe she's out there somewhere, sitting in her own quiet corner, wondering about the same thing. Maybe she too looks up at the same sky and feels the same ache, that longing for someone who feels real even without a name. When I think of her, I don't imagine perfection. I don't see flawless beauty or some fairy tale version of love. I see warmth. I see presence. I see someone whose silence feels like comfort, whose laughter feels like music, whose honesty feels like home. It's strange, isn't it? How someone you've never met can already feel familiar. Maybe that's what love truly is, not recognition of a face, but recognition of a feeling. A sense that says, "This is where I belong." There was a time when I thought destiny was something magical, that love would appear in some dramatic moment, under stars or during a concert or in a fleeting instant of serendipity. But life has taught me that destiny is quieter than that. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand. It simply waits patiently for the right timing. And timing, that's everything. There were moments when I thought I had found her, when my heart raced, when everything felt aligned. But time would always prove that we weren't ready. Not because we didn't care, but because the lessons weren't complete yet. There were still pieces of me that needed healing, still parts of her that needed to grow. That realization used to hurt, but now it brings peace, because I've learned that not every almost love is a mistake. Some are just rehearsals, gentle reminders of what we need to learn before the real thing arrives. The older I get, the more I understand that love isn't about finding someone to escape life with. It's about finding someone to live life with, all of it: the chaos, the beauty, the imperfection. I imagine her as someone who doesn't need to understand my world completely: the lights, the cameras, the attention. She doesn't need to belong to that world. What matters is that she understands me, the man behind the name, the quiet soul who sometimes needs to disappear just to feel real again. I think about the kind of conversations we'd have, the ones without masks, the kind that aren't about fame or success, but about purpose, dreams, small fears, and shared hopes. Maybe we'd talk about the things that don't make the news: the smell of rain, the beauty of imperfection, the comfort of silence. Maybe that's what I've been longing for all along: not someone to impress, but someone I can be still with. Someone who doesn't need me to be V or Taehyung the artist, but just Taehyung, the man who loves simplicity, who finds beauty in quiet mornings, who gets lost in thoughts, who still believes in the softness of love. Fame has a way of creating distance between who you are and how the world sees you. People see perfection, but they don't see the moments of doubt. They hear laughter, but they don't hear the silence that follows when the room empties. They love the image, but sometimes forget the person living inside it. That's why, when I think of her, I don't wish for someone who adores the image. I wish for someone who sees through it. Someone who can look past the spotlight and find the man who still gets nervous before a performance, who still worries if his heart is enough. There is something sacred about being seen like that, truly seen. And that's what I want. Not adoration, but understanding. Maybe that's why love takes time. Because it's not about finding someone who fits perfectly into your story. It's about writing a new story together, one that neither of you could have written alone. Sometimes I wonder what song will be playing when I finally meet her. Maybe it'll be one of mine, maybe not. Maybe it'll be something soft, something nostalgic, something that makes both of us stop for a second as if the universe just whispered, "This is it." Until that day, I've learned to be at peace with not knowing, to trust that every chapter, every delay, every heartbreak, every lonely night has been preparing me for something sacred. Because love, the kind that lasts, doesn't arrive when you demand it. It arrives when you finally become the person who can hold it. And I think I'm getting closer. Each day I feel a little lighter, a little freer, a little more ready. Ready to give love not from a place of longing, but from a place of fullness. Ready to meet her, not as someone searching for completion, but as someone who's finally whole. When that moment comes, I won't need to question it. I'll just know. Because real love doesn't confuse you. It calms you. It feels like coming home after a long journey. So I wait not with impatience, but with quiet faith. Because she's out there somewhere, walking through her own story, learning her own lessons, preparing her heart in the same way I am. And one day, when the time is right, our path will cross not because we were searching desperately, but because we were both finally ready to be found. And when that happens, the woman I kept searching for yet could never find will no longer be a mystery. She'll be a memory being written, one I'll hold for the rest of my life. There's something I've come to understand lately, that love, no matter how personal it feels, is never just about two people. It's shaped by every connection, every influence, every part of your journey that's brought you here. And in my case, that journey has never been mine alone. From the moment I stepped onto the stage, my life has been intertwined with millions of hearts. Army, you've seen me grow, you've seen me stumble, you've seen me dream. You've given me a kind of love that I didn't even know existed when I was younger. A love that's constant, patient, and unconditional. And sometimes that's exactly what makes this topic, love, marriage, finding the one, so complex for me. Because when I imagine that future, the day I finally find her, the woman I've been searching for, I can't help but think about how it will affect you too. How it will feel to see me step into a chapter that's both private and public. And I'll be honest, that thought used to scare me. There's a deep responsibility that comes with being loved by so many people. Every decision, every moment carries meaning beyond just me. And when it comes to love, I've always wanted to be careful, not because I'm afraid of being misunderstood, but because I never want to break the bond that we've built together. You've stood beside me through every version of myself, the boy who dreamed, the artist who performed, the man who's still learning, and for that, I'm endlessly grateful. That kind of love, your love, is what's given me strength to keep growing, to keep becoming better, to keep believing that real love is possible. But I also know that love, the kind I've always dreamed about, is something sacred. It's not meant to exist in headlines or in rumors or in speculation. It's meant to be lived quietly, honestly, and deeply. It's something that belongs between two souls, not between two public figures. That's the tension I carry, balancing the life that belongs to the world with the heart that belongs only to me. And sometimes when I think about marriage, that question lingers. How do you protect something pure when your life is constantly seen? I've realized the answer isn't in hiding, it's in honesty, in living truthfully, even when the world is watching. Because love that's hidden out of fear isn't love, it's survival. But love that's honest, even when it's fragile, has the power to heal. So when I think about the day I get married, I don't see it as a goodbye to the world that supported me. I see it as a continuation, a new chapter built on the foundation of everything I've learned from you. Because truthfully, Army has been one of my greatest teachers. You've taught me what it means to give love freely without expecting anything in return. You've taught me that love isn't about possession or perfection. It's about patience, growth, and connection. And I want to bring that same energy into the love I share with her, whoever she may be. When that day comes, I hope you don't see it as me walking away from the bond we've built. I hope you see it as me carrying everything you've given me into something even more meaningful. Because the truth is, the love I'll have for her will be shaped by the love I've received from you. You've shown me how to be gentle, how to listen, how to express emotion without fear. Those are things I didn't always know how to do. Those are things that fame alone could never teach me. There are moments when I imagine introducing her not to the world but to you in spirit, not with an announcement or a press release, but through my music, through my art, through the way I live. I want you to see her in the way my songs change, in the way my smile softens, in the peace that radiates when love is real. And maybe when that day arrives, some of you will feel sad, maybe some will feel distant. And that's okay, because love evolves, it grows, it expands without replacing what came before it. The woman I find won't replace Army. She will simply join the story, a story that's been built with your love, your faith, your support. She will be the person who helps me live more fully so I can give more of myself back to you. I don't want a love that divides my world. I want a love that unites it. A love that makes me stronger, more grounded, more honest, not just as a man, but as an artist. That's why I've waited. That's why I haven't rushed. Because this decision to love, to marry, to share a life is not just about happiness. It's about responsibility. It's about creating something that reflects truth, not fantasy. I've promised myself that when the time comes, I'll make that choice not out of pressure or loneliness, but out of peace, out of readiness, out of love that feels like home. And I hope that when that moment arrives, you'll see it for what it truly is. Not the end of a connection, but the deepening of one. Because the man I'll become through love will only have more to give, more sincerity, more depth, more understanding. Until then, I'll keep singing my truth. I'll keep creating music that speaks from the same heart that's been shaped by you. And I'll keep believing that love in all its forms, whether it's the love of army, the love of family, or the love of the woman I'm meant to find, all of it comes from the same source, the desire to be seen, to be understood, to be loved as we truly are. So, to the woman I've been searching for, and to every soul that's ever believed in me, know this. I carry your love with me. It's in every note I sing, every word I write, every dream I still chase. And someday, when I finally find her, I'll know that she's not just the woman I've been looking for. She's the reflection of everything you've taught me about love. And that's something I'll cherish forever. There's a silence that follows every ending, a quiet space where reflection lives. And tonight, as I sit here looking back on everything I've said, everything I've felt, I realize that maybe the woman I've been searching for wasn't meant to be found in the way I once imagined. For years, I believed love would arrive like a melody, beautiful, sudden, and unforgettable. I thought I'd recognize her instantly, that our story would unfold perfectly, like the lyrics of a song that's been waiting to be sung. But real life, it doesn't work like that. Love isn't written in straight lines. It's messy, it's slow, it teaches you through loss, through patience, through moments of almost. Maybe that's why, despite all my searching, I've never truly found her, because part of me was still learning how to love myself. There's a kind of loneliness that fame doesn't cure. You can be surrounded by thousands of people screaming your name, holding up lights, and still feel like your heart is whispering into an empty room. I've lived that. I've smiled on stage while carrying silence inside, and sometimes that silence was shaped like her, the woman I imagined but never met. But over time, I began to see something different. Love doesn't always begin with another person. It begins with awareness, with learning who you are when everything else fades away. In the quiet moments when I looked in the mirror and saw not an idol, not a performer, but a man tired, flawed, real, I realized that the woman I've been looking for would only recognize me when I learned to recognize myself. That's the truth that took me years to understand. You can't meet your forever person if you're still hiding from your own reflection. I used to think I was chasing her, the one who would complete my story. But now I see it differently. Maybe she's been waiting for me to become the man who can meet her with peace, not with longing. And in that realization, there's freedom. Because now I don't search with desperation. I search with hope. Quiet, patient, honest hope. I no longer believe in perfect timing. I believe in divine timing. The kind that arrives not when you demand it, but when your soul is ready. If I could speak to her wherever she is, I'd say this: I'm not rushing anymore. I'm becoming. So that when we meet, I won't just love you with my heart, I'll love you with my understanding. I think that's what love really is. Not a fairy tale, but a mirror. The kind that reflects both your beauty and your brokenness and still chooses you anyway. Army, you've been part of that mirror. You've shown me what unconditional love looks like. You reminded me that I don't need to be perfect to be loved, I just need to be real. And that's the kind of love I want to give in return. Not love that exists only in stages and applause, but love that